Today, we're going to discuss at a high level some of the tools that you can utilize in the Bloomberg terminal for a bottoms-up approach to forming an investment thesis for a company. The investment thesis is a major component of the one-page equity research report, in addition to other financial projections and company information. So I'll walk you through a few of the important tools in the Bloomberg terminal that you should know in order to perform your company research. We're going to be looking at a company called GCP Applied Technologies, which is a great example for this bottoms-up approach, and you'll see why as we go through the examples in the Bloomberg terminal. The first Bloomberg function we're going to look at is DES, which is the company description. So as you can see, I have the GCP US equity pulled up on the DES screen. And you can see a short description at the top. So by clicking more, you can see an extended version. This information in here is important for the investment thesis because it tells a little bit about how the company makes money. So GCP Applied Technologies was a spinoff from W.R. Grace in 2016, and they specialize in specialty construction chemicals as well as construction products. So going back to the DES screen, the other information on the screen that's important is the price chart, the estimates, management, and then there's a couple tabs for the issue information, ratios, revenue, and industry information. Okay, I'm going to click on this management function. And in here is some good information about who the executives are within the company, as well as how long they've been in that role. So even though GCP was a spinoff in 2016, not too long ago, most of the executives have only been there since 2019 and most recently 2021. So this might be something that you want to investigate further. Okay, so we'll take a look at a couple of the other tabs. The first one is the issue information. So you can see how many shares are outstanding as well as who the top holders of those shares are. So for GCP, they have a heavy concentration among a few companies like Standard Industries, BlackRock, Starboard, and Vanguard. And this is important because when you have such a large concentration, these shareholders can come together if they don't agree with the way that management is running the business and vote to enact change. Clicking on the ratios tab, you can see some high-level information, ratios for current data. There are a couple other screens that we'll go over later on about how to drill down further. Same thing with the revenue and EPS. For the revenue, you can see the revenue by quarter for the last couple years, as well as comparable earnings per share. Clicking on the industry information tab, you can see who some of the other competitors are within this industry. So for GCP, you have competitors such as BASF, DuPont, Johnson Matthey, and Sherwin-Williams. So next, we're going to explore the estimates function, EE. This is on the profile tab of the DES function. So within this function, you have the ability to look at earnings history, function ERN, consensus overview, EEO, as well as analyst coverage, ANR. So within the earnings history, you can see what the company reported for their EPS, as well as what the consensus estimate was, and whether or not this was a surprise. So as you're coming up with your own projections and your investment thesis, this information is important for you. Taking a look at the consensus overview, you can see what the actuals were for the previous quarter, as well as what the consensus was for the most recent quarter. For Q4 2020, the results haven't been released yet. So this is what analysts are expecting the company to achieve in this most recent period. Looking at the analyst coverage. So you can see the different ratings that analysts have. So for this company, GCP, they have two analysts that are recommending a hold on this stock. And down below here, you can actually see who those analysts are. So somebody from Seaport Global, as well as somebody from Jefferies. So we're going to move on to the company's filings, Bloomberg function CF. And you can get to that by going to the Related Functions menu and navigating to CF Company Filings. So here you're going to see a list of the company's most recent filings. Some of the more common filings are the 10Q, which is the quarterly results, 10K, which is the yearly results, and 8Ks, which are any unscheduled material information that the company wants to release. So just some information about the 10Qs and Ks. So the 10Q, for a large accelerated filer of having public float of more than 700 million, they're required to submit those to the SEC 40 days after a quarter end. And for a 10K, the large accelerated filers are required to submit those 60 days after a year end. And the 10Ks are audited by third-party external auditors, whereas the 10Qs are just reviewed. So taking a look at a couple of these filings for GCP Applied Technologies, I'm going to click on one here. A separate window is going to come up from the SEC EDGAR website. Taking a look at this particular 8K, there was actually a vote at the annual shareholders meeting to replace GCP's existing board of directors. And Starboard actually nominated their own board of directors, thinking that if they were in control of the company, they could create more value for the shareholders. So thinking back to the large ownership positions of the shareholders, Starboard was able to go out to those major shareholders and essentially get them to vote for Starboard's nominees. As a potential investor in this company, it would make sense to go back and look at Starboard's track record. They're activist investors, so you can see other companies that they've been able to take over and if they've been successful in creating value for shareholders. So we'll go back to the company filings page and take a look at another 8K that was filed on September 14th. So in this particular 8K, the company announced that Simon Bates was going to be the company's president and CEO. So thinking back to the shareholder meeting, the only board member that was actually voted to remain with the company was the previous CEO. So just a few months later, the company is announcing that they're replacing that CEO with Simon Bates. From an investing standpoint, developing your investment thesis, you would want to look into Simon Bates's history, where he came from, to see if he created value for those companies in the hopes that he will create value for GCP as well and essentially return value to the shareholders. As I mentioned, the company's 10Qs and 10Ks are for their filings of their financial results. We'll take a look at how to view the financials in Bloomberg in the next video.